1.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. We are coming to you, as always, from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. My name, of course, is John Mark Tolley, and joining me, as always, is my co-host with the most host, Mr. Christopher Stoley, and I have no idea what that means, but it rhymed.
All of a sudden, I want to watch Beetlejuice. Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
All right. So how are you doing today, Chris?
I'm living. Just wanted to give a quick announcement. War of the Stars, we are recording this. This is a Wednesday, July 25th. It will be going up early access to our Patreon subscribers. First and foremost, I decided that with the podcasts, what we will do is we will release them right away on Patreon, and then usually about 2 days later make it available on YouTube. So, guys, if you want early access, go hit that Patreon page.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and give us the monies.
We need the monies.
Please. We do, desperately. There's stuff that we want to get. Anyway, so I guess there was some news that happened recently at Comic-Con. Did you hear about this? Some Star Wars news?
I heard Buffy the Vampire Slayer is getting rebooted.
Oh, cool. That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. And wasn't there something about, oh yeah, that's right. Clone Wars is coming back.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Wow.
I did a reaction to that.
Yeah, I saw that, definitely. From what I guess, it's 12 episodes?
Yeah, 12 episodes finishing Dave Filoni's original story.
Yeah, yes. So, not really a full season, like a short season, but still, it's new Clone Wars.
Well, it really depends. It really depends. I mean, they didn't announce, length of episodes. 12 hour-long episodes is the same equivalent as 23, 24 half-hour.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, they didn't really say how long each episode was or, anything like that. So it's going to be interesting to see, stuff like that. So, I mean, I guess we can just get kind of right into. Well, first of all, I just got to say, did you actually? I saw you saw the trailer video. Have you seen the actual live video from the panel?
No, I did not watch the Comic-Con panel.
That is the best reaction was Ashley Eckstein's. I mean, just almost breaking down as she watches the trailer, and especially when she hears her voice as Ahsoka again, you just see her almost just completely break down. To me, it was like one of the coolest things to see how much that character means to her.
Well, it essentially kind of made her a star, didn't it? Like I know she was a voice actress beforehand, but it's really what catapulted her.
Yeah, and you can say that about most of the people there. That was like their kind of big breakthrough for a lot of them, but especially Ashley, and the fact that I believe Filoni handpicked her for that role. If I'm correct, like he's the one who created that character and then gave it to Ashley. So it was just very, very, a very, very cool moment. And for fans of the series, it is very cool to watch, to see that it's coming back. So, what are some?
I want to touch on this before we move on to the actual mechanics of the Clone Wars when it comes to Ashley. Yeah. I hope people like Kelly Marie Tran are paying attention to this because it's kind of a Star Wars success story from a character that was absolutely despised. I'm sure Ashley took as much crap as Ahmed Best and Kelly Marie and Jake Lloyd did when Ahsoka was first introduced because people hated Ahsoka originally.
Oh yeah,
but she grew on them and really became one of the most beloved non live action characters in the Star Wars universe. next to somebody like Raven or Thrawn, and
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, let that be inspiring that the trolls do eventually go away, and sometimes when you ride the wave, a star could still be born.
Yeah, yeah. I do think, though, just to kind of play, and not to say that what the trolls are doing are is right in any way, shape, or form, because it's not. But I think with TV, you have the ability to really get into long-term character development. You have time to really develop that character that you may not have with a movie. I mean, especially, you have a little bit more if you're doing a series of movies, like a trilogy or something like that. But if you're just doing one movie, you don't really have time to take that character from being a whiny little brat to this kick-ass Jedi that you do like you do with a TV series. So I think that definitely helped Ahsoka, as we were able to see her grow over time, instead of it just being she starts out one way and by 2 hours later she's something completely different.
True, but at the same indifference, I mean, I would agree. I would almost agree with you in almost every aspect, with the exception of the fact that we are talking about the Star Wars universe. And within the Star Wars universe, character development, even movie characters, can still be handled in things like comic books, movies, shit like we're doing, just podcasts where we, actually research the characters and find their backstories. You can look them up in the visual encyclopedias and stuff like that. There are ways of expanding the characters beyond whether it's TV or movie. You know what I mean? Within this universe,
definitely.
Now, if we were talking something like, I'm trying to think of a good franchise to use as an example, Fast and Furious, for lack of a better term, you're kind of stuck with what they present you because there's no other media.
Yeah, but I mean, also you can also make the argument that those books are written for the hardcore fan. There's a certain percentage of the fan base that only watches the movies, or they might watch the Clone Wars, but they're not going to read. They don't read the books. They don't read anything like that. They just watch the movies. Maybe a couple episodes. Maybe they've seen a few episodes of Clone Wars. So,
Again, I agree with you, but I also think I agree with you, but I also think there's a good percentage of the fan base that, whether they're the casual movie only or the hardcore has to have every bit of canon and legends known to man, you research the characters you love. Like you and I, we're no spring chickens, but we knew the stories of like Darth Vader long before they were released, about how Vader wound up in the Iron Lung and the battle with Obi-Wan Kenobi. We knew that shit long before there was a prequel trilogy, long before there were books and comics about it, because we did the research. Because we loved the character. I think regardless of your level of fandom, if you love a character, you'll dig into that character.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's just my 2 cents on it.
Oh, no, that's fine. You're totally right. You're totally right. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here, so to speak. And, I mean, is there any character besides the ones? I mean, we already know we'll see Ahsoka, and of course, your main character. Is there any other characters that you are really excited to see back on screen again in the Clone Wars?
I get a kick out of, ever since Attack of the Clones, one of the greatest things in the movie Attack of the Clones, which I love the fact that they explored him more in the Clone Wars movies, was Kit Fisto. I want to see more Kit Fisto episodes. I mean, I was entranced from day one, just watching the live action Kit Fisto force push somebody and smile.
That was the smile. The smiling Rasta Jedi.
The little alien from Men in Black grew up and became a Jedi.
Yes, definitely. But I mean, here's the thing, though, with with even if they're hour-long episodes, with that few episodes, do you think they'll risk doing these? Because that was one thing the Clone Wars did, was they would shoot off on these kind of tangent episodes where they would focus on a different Jedi other than Anakin and Obi-Wan, or your main, they would do a Kit Fisto, they would do a Plo Koon episode. Do you think they'll still be able to do that, or do you think they're going to stick very closely to Anakin, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and finish that arc out?
I'm very curious.
Or do you think that they'll?
I think they're going to stick very close to the source. You only have 12 episodes, and I definitely think it's going to be interesting. And personally, I hope it leads right up to the Chancellor being kidnapped by General Grievous, and the Council sending Anakin and Obi-Wan to rescue him. Basically, end the Clone Wars literally at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. I am curious how they're going to re-separate Anakin from Ahsoka. But
it looks to me like they're doing setting Ahsoka up to be on Mandalore, that she's with the Mandalorians, which would make sense, because in the book, the Ahsoka book, didn't she spent time helping the Mandalorians overthrow Maul, didn't she?
Yeah.
Wasn't she involved? Yeah, so that makes sense that she would be
but at this
there on Mandalore.
At this time frame, had she already done it? And actually,
it looks like this.
And it does raise the question: are they going to touch base on why Maul was now more interested at this time frame and point in the criminal underworld, i.e. Solo? Spoilers for those that haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how, for me at least, how this will all tie in to the rest of the franchise, the rest of the franchise and all the different movies, and we'll, stuff like that, So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And will anything that happened in season 6 come up? Will the Order 66 and the chip, will that come up? Will
Well, I imagine.
Will we see a darker?
I imagine 6 is canon, right?
Yeah,
season 6, even though it was considered like the lost episodes or whatever the case may be, it is canon.
Yes. Yeah, as far as I know, it is.
So yeah, I would imagine
it's going to be interesting to see. And the other thing I'm wondering is, will we see any cameos from any characters from like any of the other shows? Like, will we see anybody from Rebels?
If we do, and I
maybe
had this,
a Padawan.
I had this conversation with you with
Canon,
the failed
Kanan.
with the failed recording, that if they did visit anybody previous to Rebels, it would have to be something like maybe seeing Hera as a teenager. If we wind up visiting Chance Sedula, and she's just kind of a background character, or maybe we have a who is it, Aldu Mundi? I think it was I forget her name, but the master to Caleb Dune, while he was still a teenage apprentice. If we do a character with them in the background, I could see them appearing that way. But like if you're talking like Chopper or Zeb, or especially somebody like Ezra, no, I don't think.
No, well, Ezra would be. I mean, Ezra was born the day the Empire was formed.
Right.
So, I think the most logical.
I think Satine's
to me the most logical character. What's that?
I said I think
Sabine. I think is supposed to be a.
Yeah, Sabine is just a slight bit older, if not the same age as Ezra, so she's pretty much out of the picture too.
I think maybe a year or two older. I think she might be. She's was definitely more mature, but yeah. I think the most logical character to show up, well, there's two, would be I would be surprised to see a cameo from Tarkin and Thrawn.
Thrawn very likely.
Kind of, inkling.
Thrawn very likely.
A very young Thrawn.
And Tarkin very likely. I mean, Tarkin has been in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
I don't remember what season, but that season where they basically rescued him with a bunch of the new batch clone troopers.
Yeah.
And he was a Republic commanding officer, naval officer or something of that nature. Yeah. But Tarkin's been in Clone Wars before, so I wouldn't necessarily call him a Rebels cameo. I would more call Thrawn a Rebels cameo. I don't know, maybe if we got to see like Kallus or the or the girl or the woman, the command the Imperial female. I can't remember her name.
Governor Price.
Governor Price.
Governor Price. Yeah.
I don't know if they might possibly take some form of a cameo appearance. I wouldn't put it past Filoni to really tie in his two shows. But
definitely, yeah. Well, that's one thing he has kind of done before is like he tied in Clone Wars a lot into Rebels in a good way, in a way that made sense and didn't seem like it was shoehorning characters in. So it would make sense that he would do the same thing, that he would slip in references to the other shows that he has done before. I mean, with Star Wars at least, I don't think we're going to see Avatar: The Last Airbender and the Clone Wars, but who knows? I could be wrong.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, again, we're talking about like 12 episodes, and you pretty much guess it's going to really tie in with, like you said, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and leading to the events of Episode 3. You know what I mean? So with that thought process in mind, do you think we're going to see any of the mainstay Clone Wars characters like Cad Bane, Hondo, even Jar Jar Binks? Do you think they'll even make an appearance, or are they pretty much going to be pushed to the side for the main story?
Jar Jar maybe, just because he's become... I think of all those I hate to say it, but I think Jar Jar would be the most likely to show up, just because he's almost at this point considered a main character. Like, he was in the movies, he was, in quite a bit of episodes in the Clone Wars. So if they do anything on Coruscant, then yes, I don't know if you'll see an entire episode devoted to him, but I definitely think we will see him in some way, shape, or form for however long it is. The same thing with Padme. I think we'll definitely see Padme.
Oh, with Anakin,
in an episode.
Padme, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, here's a question. Do you think we'll see? Do you think we'll see any of the Rogue One characters appear in some way, shape, or form? Maybe not Jyn Erso, because she would still be extremely young. But what about Cassian? Of course, we know Saw Gerrera is still running around the universe, so
yeah,
maybe we'll see how he got so beat as he is.
I think it'll be interesting to see a younger Krennic.
I was thinking Krennic, or I was thinking Galen Erso. Maybe
I was thinking the same thing.
Maybe where he first gets approached about the super weapon.
Yeah, that would be interesting, and I think it would be interesting. And I don't know. I don't think they'd be able to do it. I think this would be something more for a book to do. Is for to delve into the relationship between Galen and Krennic and how that started out and how it ended up where it was,
They touch base a little bit in Rogue One Catalyst, the book, but maybe a full novel or even comic. Well, maybe not comic series. comic book readers would probably find it boring. But yeah, a book where you really do delve into their relationship and how close they actually were before the whole, separation of morality, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would probably be a very interesting read. But again, that would be something, going back to your earlier point, that would be something for hardcore Star Wars fans. That wouldn't be like a New York Times bestseller to your average Star Wars fan or even your average Star Wars reader.
Yeah, definitely.
That would be dedicated to somebody like you or me who's looking for any and all bits of information that we could have. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. But I also don't think it would be something that you'd want to put into, like, devote an entire episode to, to the Clone Wars just for Krennic and Galen Erso to show how good of friends they were. I think, if you were talking about, this was like season 5 of what we already knew was going to be a 6 or 7 series season series, then maybe you could get away with that. But if you're doing like what they're doing with the Clone Wars, then no, I don't think you can get away with something other than just a cameo appearance by one of them. Well, I think it probably will be just one of them.
All right, well, I got a question then. We obviously, after this season of Clone Wars that they put out, we're getting Star Wars Resistance, which is the next animated series, and it takes place through the time of the current trilogy, saga, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
What if, like, in the Star Wars main run comic book, they spent an arc where Luke was reading Obi-Wan's journal. And while he was reading that journal, it was flashbacking to the stories Obi-Wan was telling within his journal. What if in Resistance they discovered something dealing with Galen or with Krennic that flashes back to that in Resistance? Would that be something that you would consider good for an episode, or do you think that would take away from moving forward into the newer era?
I don't know. I mean, flashbacks are always touchy. It would depend on how they did it. If they just did it to, we're just going to do this for nostalgia reasons, we're just going to do a flashback scene just for the sake of doing a flashback scene to say, hey, remember these characters? We did this really cool movie. Then no, but as long as the flashbacks tie into the overall story arc that they're going for moving forward, then I have no problem with doing flashbacks. If it ties into something greater in the overall story arc,
Okay.
I don't think flashbacks should just be one-off shows or filler episodes. I don't want it to be that. I want it to be part of the overall story arc for whatever Resistance is going to be about.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, that's fine. I was just trying to come up with an idea. Like I said, I was spitballing, but I was just trying to come up with an idea where that story could be told in an episodic form on a TV show, but not take away from one of the 12 episodes of Clone Wars.
Yeah. And I think maybe maybe Resistance could be a catalyst to do that, because we know you were going to have, I'm hoping 3 or 4 seasons. You never know. What you're going to get. How many seasons you're going to get for anything nowadays. But hoping at least 3 or 4 seasons, if not more. But
well, especially when you think about it, Dave Filoni loves tying in his canon with the movies. I.e., look at how he figured out a way through Clone Wars and Rebels of tying Captain Rex into Return of the Jedi with Rebel Soldier number 6.
Yes, that was cool.
Who is now officially canon as Rex, which I love.
Yes.
I would love a miniseries, a book, a comic series of Rex through the Imperial War. How he survived Order 66, got away from everything, went underground before Rebels, and then even after Rebels, how he got reassigned in during the first Death Star run, during the Rebellion scattering in Empire, all the leading up to Endor. That's still like 6 years of story I'd love to know about Rex.
Yeah, definitely a Rex story would be very cool, especially for, like you said, us hardcore fans. It would definitely be exciting and fun, and but yeah, I mean, so let's talk a little bit about Resistance, since we kind of talked about it. I mean, we kind of know the time frame, but what are you expecting? Are you expecting it to be like a continuation of Rebels, or do you think it's going to be something completely different? As far as
based off of how different Dave made Rebels from Clone Wars, I completely expect Resistance to be different. I don't want it to be like Rebels. I don't want it to be like Clone Wars. I want it to be its own original thing. I love the tie-ins. I love when things interconnect with each other, like with Rebels when Hondo appears and stuff of that, and Rex and all that appear, and Ahsoka appear. That's great connection to the old stuff. But I want Resistance to stand on its own. I want it to be something that when I pop it in or it comes on TV, I instantly know this is Star Wars Resistance. It's not Rebels. It's not Clone Wars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I love the fact that the look of each of the show, and I know that Clone Wars, at least their initial iteration was very much Lucas involved in it, but Filoni was also involved a lot. But I like that each of the quote unquote, I guess you could say, Dave Filoni Star Wars properties have such different looks about them. The animation for each series is so different from each other. And I like that each one gives its own unique individual fingerprint for each one. Like Clone Wars has a very unique animation style. Mm-hmm. Rebels has a very unique animation style, and it looks like Resistance is going to have its own unique animation style, and I like that.
No, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you, and I thoroughly believe that it's not just the animation that's really separates one from the other. I think even atmosphere of the shows have been completely different. Like, towards the end, Rebels got dark, but Rebels still had that, dare I say, more lightheartedness that Clone Wars was especially lacking. Not to its detriment, but Clone Wars. Yeah. If you could say this about kids' cartoons, Clone Wars was a lot grittier.
Oh yeah. Well, I think they also had the advantage of not being. They had the advantage of being on later, kind of later, and on a channel that gave them maybe a little bit more leeway.
Fair enough.
Not that, like you said, Network. Rebels. Yeah. But also, I think like Rebels was, at least for the first 2 or 3 seasons, or even then, even when they kind of got off the fall, Rebels was a very small show. Like, it was just based around one group of people all the time, and you just saw them in their little bubble of the rebellion. For most of it, whereas Clone Wars was very big. It wasn't just on Coruscant. It was like this. You saw more of the galaxy with Clone Wars than you ever did with Rebels. Rebels was very home-based, whereas, for lack of a better term, Clone Wars was more international.
Right. Well, I think
so.
I think playing off of your question to me about should it stand on its own or should it be familiar to anything previous. With Resistance, if I wanted any familiarity in any way or following a template in any way, I want Resistance to do for the sequel trilogy what Clone Wars did for the prequels. Clone Wars filled a lot of gaps and fixed a lot of what was wrong with the prequel trilogies.
Yeah.
Like why Anakin and Anakin's turn to the dark side felt so sudden in the movies or whatever. And then in the Clone Wars, it explored it and showed that it wasn't as, well, gee, I'm just going to turn dark as they, appeared. I hope Resistance does the exact same thing with a lot of the things that people have issues with the sequel trilogy thus far. It really fills a lot of the gaps.
And even in that time period, can also fill any of the gaps or any of the for those people who hadn't read like any of the Aftermath books, it can fill in some of those gaps too. In a good way, in a way.
The years between Jedi and Force Awakens.
Jedi and
the 30
and even
years,
kind of tie in what happened between those 2 points, to lead to the rise of the Empire, or the rise of the First Order, and the fall of the Empire and stuff like that, and the. So yeah, that's going to be definitely going to be interesting to see.
Well, that is something I am definitely excited about Resistance for. Is there is so much story that could be told between Force Awakens and Jedi that Disney and Lucasfilm hasn't yet touched, and I understand why. They didn't want to spoil anything coming from the movies. So I get that, but we are reaching a point where now, even in the comics, like Poe Dameron's actually past the events of Last Jedi.
Yeah.
In the comics. So, I mean, we've gotten to a point now where, with the exception of a few big surprises that I hope will be in 9, we could start opening up that time frame and start telling some of its stories. Because with Aftermath, it was interesting, but it really wasn't a direct tie-in. Outside of like Wedge Antilles and once in a while Leia showing up and one little arc with Han Solo, they stayed completely away from anything that would be major arc to moving from celebrating the death of the Empire to now we're running from the First Order.
Yeah.
There's still plenty of story to tell. I want to hear the story of Luke's adventures before he decided to make the temple. Because when you really break it down to its story arc, you think about like, okay, Luke handled the Emperor and burned Vader and celebrated with the Ewoks. And then you've got a good 25 years really before he does the temple, and then fucking Kylo goes emo and destroys the temple, kills all the students, and Luke goes off to Ahch-To to fish and drink green milk and kill himself. What happened in that 25 years? Let me see those stories.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Why did Han run away from his responsibilities with his family? Like all these things can really be explored. And I think Resistance and that time frame, with stories, comics, and stuff maybe, I think that's where to do it. You don't do it in another movie.
Have they said how far between the two movies Resistance is supposed to take place, between like the end of Jedi and Force Awakens? Have they set a time frame for like how far into, close to, does it take place before Force Awakens?
As far as I know, it takes place before Force Awakens, or at least like right before to in between Force Awakens and Jedi. Don't quote me on it, though. You're kind of catching me with my pants around my ankles. I have no information up, and it's been a while since I've researched Resistance, so I'm not exactly
Well, because I was just wondering, like, for you personally, like, how far between those two movies would you like to see it? Would you like to see it closer to Force Awakens, or a little bit closer to the end of Jedi, or maybe somewhere, like, right in the middle?
I'd say somewhere right in the middle, because It'd be stupid to call it Resistance if you're doing it right after Return of the Jedi, because the First Order's not around. There is no Resistance.
Yeah.
It's the birth of the Republic, the
Yeah.
New Republic.
Yeah.
And I don't want it too close to Force Awakens because it answers no questions. So
Yeah.
I would want it more towards the middle. I would want it to be during the birth of the Resistance and the rise of the First Order. Why the First Order even became a threat, that the New Republic needed the Resistance. You know what I mean? That's where I would probably want the story to pick up.
Yeah.
But again, don't quote me. I don't have the information in front of me. I could be completely wrong.
Hey, if it gets completely wrong, we know how to blame. Send all your hate mail directly to Christopher Soley, care of Realm of the Mist.
Hey, I get enough hate mail. I have an ex-wife. But no,
Wow.
I mean, the fact of the matter is it's Star Wars. I'm gonna like it in some way, shape, or form. And even if it's not the greatest Star Wars thing, I'm gonna find things I could cherry pick out of it to enjoy out of it and connect into what I enjoy about Star Wars overall. So and of course we're talking about Dave Filoni. He's George Lucas Jr. for God's sake.
Yeah.
If anybody can be entrusted with this franchise, 120,000%, it's Dave Filoni. I have no worries with Resistance, just like I'm super excited for Clone Wars. I think this is going to be a short, lamentingly short 12 episodes. But,
Yes.
oh my God, it's going to be 12 awesome episodes.
Awesome. Yes.
Of Clone Wars.
Although I do think I have a Star Wars story that I don't think you would watch. Jar Jar Binks in L3 or L2, the love story.
That depends. Were they standing on Starkiller Base when it blew up? Or Alderaan? Put them on Alderaan. You may fire Winroad. Hit that fucker twice.
Oh, wow. Wow. All right, then. Well, on that note.
People, I don't hate Jar Jar Binks as much as the average Star Wars fan does. I pick on him, but I don't hate him as much as the average Star Wars fan because I understood what he stood for. I'm not a fan of Kelly Marie Tran's character, Rose. That's not her fault. I just don't care for the character. But I don't hate the character. She served a purpose.
Yeah.
I fucking despise L337. Nothing about that character makes any sense to the Star Wars universe at all. I hate using she because it's a droid. It had no purpose in the film. And as a matter of fact, she served to do something that I thought would never happen in Star Wars. Spoilers, she became one thing about the Millennium Falcon I cannot fucking stand. She ruined Empire Strikes Back for me. Because that episode, in Empire Strikes Back, when 3PO is talking to the ship, and he turns to Han Solo and he says, I don't know where your ship learned to communicate, but it has the most peculiar dialect. Now I know it's L337.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
And so that gets filed with midichlorians for me. As far as I'm concerned, that does not exist.
Hey, headcanon is just as good as regular canon, I say.
That's it.
That's one thing I always say. If there's something that doesn't make sense to you and you think in your head some way, that's perfectly fine. There's ways around everything.
Look, you want to put it this way? The greatest movie I would see in Star Wars is if you have Jar Jar Binks and Rose Tico turn around and kill L337 with midichlorians. I will accept all fucking canon and be completely thrilled with it. Okay? Just blasting midichlorians like freaking Ryu in Street Fighter 2. Misa say, oh, you can!
Oh, I'm tempted to use the Han Solo line from Force Awakens. That's not how the Force works.
Oh, you're cold? Oh, Jesus.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll call it a night. Any final thoughts before we get off here tonight?
Yeah, just a real quick announcement, guys. Today, actually a couple hours ago, Timothy Zahn had just released his book, the sequel to Thrawn Rising. I know that our keeper of canon himself, Mr. Brian Miller, just picked up his copy today and is starting reading it. So please keep an eye out because I'm sure he'll be giving a review of the book very, very soon.
Definitely, yes. Be excited to hear his thoughts on what the Grand Admiral is up to in the next book. And also have a announcement to make. The next episode of War of the Stars will feature a special guest, Dr. Janice Liddell. She is a professor of history at I believe it's the University Laurentine in Toronto, Ontario. She wrote a book called Star Wars and History, which delves into the how real life history, events in history played into the telling of the Star Wars saga. So it'd be really interesting to get her take and hear some of her thoughts. Me being a big history buff, it's going to be very interesting to listen to her, just her thoughts on the book, on her book, and just kind of have a conversation about Star Wars and history. So look forward to that.
What day is that interview happening?
We still have to set a time. It's going to be sometime after the 19th of August.
Okay, so guys, write down in the comments section below or go to realmofthemistentertainment@gmail.com. And if you have a question you want to present, send your question either to the comment section below or the email I just gave you before August 19th, and we will read your question on air.
Definitely. Yes, definitely. You know, I have several questions to ask as it is myself, but I'm sure, you know, if you guys have any questions, you know, for Dr. I'm sure I'm butchering her name horribly, but for Dr. Liddell, like you said, in the comment section below, on the Facebook page, Realm of the Mist Facebook page, War of the Stars Facebook page. Definitely, it's definitely an honor for the show to get, you know, an actual doctor who's written a book, not a novel, but a non-fiction book about something like this. It's definitely very cool. But also an announcement for War of the Stars. Until at least further notice, we're going to be doing a once-a-month show. It's just easier to do it for me right now, to do it like that, and it allows me to be somewhat more consistent with my shows, so that I know, instead of not knowing, you know, from week to week if I'm doing a show or anything like that. Now that I'm doing it like this, just makes it a whole lot easier. The shows will be once a month. Usually, they'll come out probably the end of the month, probably around this time, I'm guessing, give or take, depending on my schedule. But yeah, so that's pretty much all the news that's coming out of here for War of the Stars. Do you have any other announcements coming from any other shows from Realm of the Mist?
Well, right now we know that Star Wars Canon Podcast is on hiatus because Brian Miller is moving. He's actually moving this coming weekend. So he'll probably be moving boxes the day this releases on YouTube.
Yeah.
For general public. But Realm of the Mist is now moving off of Radiocast FM. We are no longer going to be performing on Saturday afternoons at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our shows will be simulcasted now on Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone. So check your local listings for what time that falls for you.
Yeah.
During that time frame, we are going to be bringing back Breaking the Fourth Wall, obviously Star Wars Canon Podcast, which Star Wars Canon Podcast is the, I guess you could kind of call it the combination of Journal of the Jedi and Star Wars Canon Library just turned into one show.
Yeah.
It's just easier to manage, and let's face it, 3 Star Wars shows was kind of a lot.
What?
I don't mind, but other people, yeah. But
Other
so
people.
exactly. But so you got those 2 shows coming up. I believe that Trans Geek Girl is still a part of Realm of the Mist and should be coming back soon as well. Keep an eye out for that. Basically, before the summer's out, all shows will be back in full swing. So keep an eye out for that, guys.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. All right, then. Well, you can find me right here at Chris said at Realm of the Mist every month now for War of the Stars. You can also find me on Facebook at Mark Tolley and on Twitter at John Mark Tolley 1 because I am the #1 John Mark Tolley. Like the Facebook page, War of the Stars and Realm of the Mist. Chris, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me anywhere you find the phrases Realm of the Mist Entertainment. You could also find me for Press A Gaming. You can contact me on all the social medias under Christopher Stolley. And, of course, guys, please, 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 the Patreon page. I want to start making
Patreon.
sure. I want to make sure you guys can look us up. It's Realm of the Mist. And get early access content, special feature content that will only be released to you guys. Big announcements for the Patreon page coming soon. Guys, it doesn't matter if it's $100 or $1. Anything helps to keep this channel alive so we can bring you the best possible content we possibly can. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Thank you. And as always, remember, the Force will be with you always.
And forever.
Take care, guys.
Always and forever.